Okay, I think we are live.
Ooh.
Hey everyone.
Hey y'all. Welcome back to the virtual write-in. We're all here again.
It's my October dance because it's October today.
We're just gonna all do this. Nautica, feel free to join in now. Okay.
I'm not that good at dancing. But I am writing, and that's what we're here for. Also, I know a lot of y'all are from different places in the world, so make sure you drop your location in the chat. We want to know just who we're reaching out to, how far. Maybe some of y'all are in the same areas, maybe y'all are across the globe from one another. So drop that in the chat. And we want to make sure y'all are ready for the writing marathon, giving any advice or just prepping your story. So that's what we're kind of here for.
Yeah. If y'all don't know us, I'm Catherine. I'm the communications manager over at NaNoWriMo, and my pronouns are she, her, or they, them.
I'm Meghna. I'm the programs intern, and my pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Nautica. I'm the editorial intern. I know y'all seen me before. And I go by they, them, or she, her, whichever. And so just to let y'all know with some early announcements before we get into this writing, if y'all ever need more support, maybe us doing this every 2 weeks isn't enough. You're like, I want more. I'm greedy. Give me everything because I deserve it. We're having Nano Prep this month. And the next workshop is coming up on Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific. So Catherine, which one is that based on again?
Yeah, so basically I'll drop in the link for our Nano Prep page, but we're providing a bunch of resources for just preparing to write a novel this month, so that you can be ready to hit the ground running when November starts. And we're kind of doing weekly themes. You guys can pay attention to the weekly themes or not if you want. But next week is our world building week, and one of our sponsors is a company called World Anvil, and their whole platform is about very in-depth world building. So the people who run World Anvil are going to be on a webcast sharing a bunch of information and resources for how to world build. So yeah, that's next Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. The event is up on our YouTube page. So if you want to get a notification about it, you can subscribe to our channel and click the little bell.
And I think another early announcement we have also is the donation campaign.
Yeah. So the other thing that we're doing this week, it's called our Nano Prep campaign. Again, just as we're all getting ready and getting excited to write our novels for November. We are NaNoWriMo is a 501c3 nonprofit, and most of our money comes from participants.
Sorry, my mom.
No worries. It's ooh, that was one right now. No. So this week we are running a specific campaign, like a fundraising campaign, basically. So all the money goes straight into providing the programs and resources that NaNoWriMo gives to all our writers. But for $30, you get a really cool flip calendar, and so it's 30 days of prep tips, tips on preparing your novel, and 30 days of pep tips, so little pep talks, and they're quotes from authors that we've worked with before. So I don't know, John Green, Neil Gaiman, and N.K. Jemisin, so it's full of quotes from really cool authors. So if you want to help support NaNoWriMo and you want to get that cool little flip calendar, plus all the other donor goodies that you usually get, you can donate this week, and I will put that link in the chat as well.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Cool. So I know that was a lot of announcements, and y'all are here for the good stuff, right? So Meghna, if you have the next prompt or sprint.
I do. Hold on.
Oh yeah, we forgot to say that this week's Nano Prep focus is plotting. So if you don't know what your plot is for your novel that you're going to write in November, you can figure it out now.
You can also just try plotting a random idea you have in your head. I know me and Nautica like thought about doing like a generator if you really want. Take the characters, make a story, whatever you feel like. But basically, our first sprint prompt will be write the outline for your current project or a project you want to work on. So you can just, even if you don't have like a clear-cut idea of what kind of story you want to do right now, just pick something random and write down a general plot line for how the story would progress.
Yeah, and if you're like, oh, man, I don't even know where to start, like feel free to just jot down random words or like things that you would associate with your project. It can be a list, it can be like little, like, you know, those bubble maps where things are all connected like a spider web, like scribble all over the page, whatever. All right, and so this first one is 5 minutes, right?
Yes, perfect.
You want me to keep time?
If you can.
Yeah, perfect. Just gotta get my timer up. All right. All right, so first prompt, just working on an outline or word generation, whatever, of your current project or the project you want to work on. I'm gonna spend 5 minutes doing this, and let's start now. Got about a minute left. All right, time's up. Go ahead and wrap up what you're writing. If you want to share anything you wrote or the number of words you got, whatever, feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah.
How was that for y'all?
It was pretty good. I already I'm just outlining the idea for my nano project, and I've been trying to play with how it is gonna start. So I tried a different beginning this time and just started writing down how the story would go. I think I got through 8 points, but that's also just all the things that happened kind of in the beginning. So
That's so productive.
what about y'all?
Mine was very messy. It's not technically a plot yet per se, but it's some words in a document. So
What about you, Nautica? How is your scene going?
I think I'm kind of the same. And if anything, I have more questions than answers, and I just found out more questions. So it's definitely a work in progress.
I saw Sisla, I believe that's how you say it, was talking about how their story follows 2 sisters with superpowers. I actually am in a class right now where I have to I'm studying superheroes, and I have to write a short story for extra credit. So I'm maybe now it's reminding me maybe I should be working on that and not this.
Yeah, give some tips.
Please give me tips.
I also see Maeve. I put a few story beats down. That's important. Just get through. Miriam Dom, I'm sorry if I'm saying your username wrong. Said, I wrote a couple of sentences about the beginning, middle, and end of the story.
I saw Tenacious Tam say mine is a mess. Is it a plot? Maybe. And you know what? That's how I feel like some of us do feel right now.
We're in the same boat.
But that's the thing about messes. You just clean it up. You need stuff there in the first place.
Our first discussion topic is, are you a planner, pantser, or plantser? We'll start with Catherine.
Yeah. So in case there's anybody here who's watching who doesn't know what those terms mean, basically it's planners are people who spend a lot of time planning out in very in detail what their novel is going to be before they sit down and write it. Pantsers are called pantsers because you fly by the seat of your pants, and plantsers are somewhere in the middle. I used to think I was a planner, but I have to face the reality that I am a pantser. I will usually write the first 25 to 30 pages and then be like, I guess I should write an outline now. So, but my outline's still 1 sentence words, or how in old books sometimes they'll have the chapter titles be in which the main character goes to the store. I'll write out an outline like that.
I think that also gives you the chapter titles if you really want one.
Yeah.
So
So
there's that. What about you, Nautica?
Let me see. And also let us know in the chat. Let's see if we can bond. Let's see if we match in pairs. I think it depends on what stage I'm on. I like putting like note cards against the wall, and I like to map out that this is in this arc, they'll do this, 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 and this. This is the emotional stuff like that. But then when I put it on the page, I have to like just free flow. I can't follow a structure.
I have never known a real person who did the note card thing. Like I've always seen that advice given, and I'm like, wow, those people must be so smart. I could
No,
never.
it's terrifying. I can cover a whole wall if I'm really into it.
I I like when I get an idea, I immediately write down like some sort of like an outline or like how I think the story would go, but it's all like bullet points. It's not like a real like it. I don't do the 3 arcs thing. I just like write down this happens and this happens and this happens. That's actually how I wrote a lot of like fanfic growing up. I would just like write down everything that would happen, and then I'd be like, okay, now I know what I'm getting myself into, and I can write it. So when it comes to short fiction, I think I'm like that. But for a novel, actually, even then, I just need to know what I'm gonna do. Like I have to get the idea out and then I like add to it. So I guess I'm a planner.
all right. It's I think we represent the three categories here.
Way, yeah. We have Fluffy Mao as a planster. I'm seeing a lot of plansters.
Yeah, a lot of planters.
Pamela also is a planster. Alyssa, a planner for sure. Love the confidence, know what's happening.
Oh my gosh, Tori wrote a 272-page blueprint for my novel. That's about the most plannery planner I've ever heard of.
That's so brave. I can't do it. Oh, I like the ones who are like we play connect the dots. I think the Unwanted Book Club said that. I think that's a good way to say like I just like write my bullet points and then I like figure out how to connect them when I like write.
I think one, what is it? I know Sheila Brawley. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I've used a big whiteboard, bullets, note cards, and a huge note file on my phone. Exactly.
Ooh, someone
like that's like in heist movies, they always have the glass like bulletin board that they
And
write down all the stuff on.
I pictured that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where the guy's got all the like red lines, like he looks like crazy. That's what I think I would look like. Also someone mentioned Corinna. I first do the Freytag pyramid, then index cards, and then an extensive story Bible. I don't even know what that pyramid is. I'm gonna look that up right now. But like that sounds so technical.
I mean, there's so many different like
Oh, this is the
to do
Freytag
it.
thing.
Even if you're a plotter, there's like no one way to go about doing it, you know.
I definitely think there are, what is it, pros and cons of each, and just borrowing from whatever like gets you going, whatever helps you out, especially November when there's such a short time, whatever helps you keep going is what matters.
I shared the link to the pyramid in case anyone wanted that because I thought that was cool. And then like having a story Bible, I feel like if you're a fantasy writer, you have to, because you like have to know everything that's going on. And as someone who was like, I'm a fantasy writer for sure, like I have so many ideas. No, I've accepted that I'm a contemporary person because fantasy is too much, but also like so much fun.
I do write fantasy, and I've never had a story Bible, but the first novel that I completed, I did have a glossary for my fantasy language. So
You made a language?
I borrowed heavily from Gaelic because that's the foreign language that I took in college.
Mhm.
So not exactly.
We also have a question in the chat, and also I want to know it too because I actually don't know. What is a story Bible?
I'll put a link if I can find one, but from what I understand of it, it's like you make an encyclopedia for your entire like fantasy world, essentially. Like everything from like a map where the like a family tree. I think I found one. I'll put a link in. But Catherine, you've kind of made one. You could go take the floor.
Oh no, like I said, I haven't really made one. I just made like a little glossary. I did make a map too at some point though. But yeah, I think it's up to, again, it's one of those things that's like kind of up to the writer, like whatever information you need to know that's not necessarily like directly accessible in your brain, that you might need to look up as you're going through it. And it's not just fantasy novels that can have kind of that like story encyclopedia, but I think
I feel like mystery novels definitely could have, and like thrillers, and or like those family saga books where like they cross generations. One of those definitely.
Yeah.
They have to have them.
Nimiar says, I also world build like I do for DMing, being a dungeon master for like D&D or something, but that makes a lot of sense.
I think with all this like world building, that maybe this feels like the right time to start writing while we're talking about world building, and maybe adding on to the outline of the plot that we just wrote, like expand more. What is that world? What's happening? If that makes sense.
Yeah, let's do it. Ready to write.
So our next prompt actually is following a plot outlining method by what's the person's name? Gabriela Pereira. I will put the name in the chat because I did not pronounce that correctly. But it's called the subway map plot structure, where
we're just what is it? I think since we're like short on time, that we're gonna like put it in the chat if folks want to look at the subway. It's a really good method if you need a little bit more help with putting plot lines and connecting them together. Which I think it's an amazing resource to definitely look on, especially if you need help with your plot outline.
So do you want to do the prompt still, or do you want to?
I think the world building, because the prompt is kind of similar to the last one. What do you think, Catherine?
What did you have in mind for a world building prompt? I agree that this is a really interesting path to pursue.
I think we should do our own little story Bibles.
Oh.
I think we should do it. Just jot down whatever comes to your mind, whatever you need to like dig out in this next 10 minutes. I think we should do that.
All right. Yeah, I love that. Let's do it.
And if y'all don't want to do this, you don't need to. If you do whatever, it helps y'all.
Yeah, and again, I think you don't have to use these prompts if you don't want to, or if it doesn't work for you, but I like the idea of just taking the next 10 minutes and thinking about all the things, again, that you might need to like reference or access as you're going through and actually writing. So this could be things like making a character list, or like describing each setting that you might use, or yeah, like doing a family tree, or like how your characters are going to be connected. Creating a made-up language for your fantasy world. Yeah, so just the things that you're excited about, that you might end up referencing as you're going through in writing. All right. Yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's do 10 minutes for this one. Yeah, I'm just pulling up my timer here. So again, 10 minutes, just working on creating kind of a story Bible, whatever that means for you, whatever pieces of information that you think might be necessary when you start writing your plot. And let's go ahead and start writing now. About halfway through. Got about 2 minutes left. All right. Time is up. go ahead and wrap up what you're writing. Again, if you want to share some of the stuff that you wrote down for the prompt, feel free to put it in the chat. I love seeing all the stuff that people are working on. I had to dip out and go get my notebook because I'm much better at doing stuff like this by hand than on the computer.
How was it for you?
Good, productive, I think. So, yeah.
I found it productive because so I actually started with a notebook and then switched to the laptop. But I tried like writing down everywhere, like every setting that could possibly be in the book, and then break down like the arcs that Nautica mentioned, like the emotional journey for the characters are, physically what they're gonna be working throughout the book, things like that. I'm writing a contemporary romance, so a lot of mine is not like fantasy or world building related, it's more like the internal conflicts, so I wrote some of those down.
Sounds productive.
How
What
about you?
would you?
I realized I need to do a lot of research and it's science related, and I just need a little bit, but it's science related. So I got somewhere with my world building. I just have to look more into it.
I mean,
I legitimately had a dream last night that I had to go back to high school and take calculus because they had figured out that I had never taken calculus. It was a terrible nightmare. So I understand how you feel.
you should just focus on the dream part, which is you didn't take calculus.
Yeah.
Then just cling on to that and be like, I got through it. But if it's like simple science things or things that I could help with, Nautica, just shoot me a message.
I'll reach out. But let's see in the chat, let's see what folks have been up to. Nicole, I'm still setting up the word counts for the scenes.
Actually, that's a good question. Do y'all like have a specific number in mind of like how many words you want to hit per chapter or like per story?
I do tend, I think because I tend to write YA, I try to aim for having my stories be within, I don't know. It's like, I usually aim for about 90,000 words, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of on the short side of YA, but that's what I aim for in my first drafts usually. But chapter by chapter, I don't have a set word count. It's kind of wherever it feels like the flow is best or where it feels like a chapter break needs to be.
I like saw somewhere that like each chapter like roughly should be like 1,500 to 5,000 words. So in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my god, okay. Once I hit that range, I'm good. I'm fine. But I don't plan in advance.
If it helps y'all, I just maybe because it reminds me of school.
That's true.
Me personally. But I do know some folks are sharing the word count in the chat. Seems like folks have gotten a lot, like Kate L, 116 words for me, just working on a scene for rewrites before Nano. Some prep. And Aaron with 241 words of world building stuff. I've been working a lot on plot stuff, but it's helpful to make sure I know what context the plot is happening in.
I see that Francesca Bella added some environment elements to their story Bible during that time and like imagine more detail and justify the setting for the main character.
That's cool. I've seen a lot of people talking in the chat too about different like softwares and stuff that they use to help organize all their writing. And I just want to put a plug, I'll put the link in the chat, that we do have a bunch of like sponsors for NaNoWriMo, and they usually give discounts for people who are participating. So stuff like Scrivener and Dabble, just like a bunch of like writing softwares, and I think some like time management and like writing community stuff. But yeah, they have a bunch of discounts, and some of them have like even more or like bigger discounts for people who get to 50,000 words. So if that's something that would help motivate you, I just put the link to the sponsor offers page in the chat.
I use Scrivener because I got like one of the codes. So I was like, okay, I'll try it one day. But like I only do it like when I actually start a project, but like or like I've committed to it and like I know I'm gonna write the whole thing. But most of the time I just use Google Docs. I have one email account that's the drive is just writing, like it's nothing else. So I don't like run out of space for like school stuff. But yeah, that's all I use.
That's cool.
And while we're thinking about like software, because I know sometimes I use software, I use Dabble a little bit to help. And it's because I get sometimes I get stuck with the plots. And a question I kind of want to ask y'all, if y'all want to put it in the chat, is where do y'all get stuck when you're planning your projects? Like what's that weakness? Where is it? Oh, you just can't jump over.
Mine's the middle.
Yeah.
I can come up with a great beginning, a great end. I don't know what's going on or like how they get there. And if I can find it, like after like 6 months, a year, it's archived entirely for at least until I get something in the middle.
I gotta agree with you on that one. I think the only time I was able to get over it is when I started thinking of my chapters as a as a movie episode. Like and then plans the book like a season.
That's cool.
So then I make sure it ends on the highlights of each chapter, just so I could figure out what am I missing. That's probably the only time I've ever got over the middle.
That's awesome. I love that advice.
That's a good trick. I think only this summer I like finally had a story where like I knew what I wanted the middle to be, and I was like, I can write this. And then it was fantasy, and like I got 5 chapters in, and I was like, I can't do this. The amount of research this is taking, my brain also just doesn't work with the writing style for fantasy. So I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I know the story, and that's all that matters.
I tend to get really stuck at the very end, and I think somebody else in the chat was saying they always get stuck at the end. But it's like I know where it's going, but I'm like, oh, I have to like resolve this in a way that makes everything that came before it like meaningful, and that just freaks me out. And so I like always get stuck on the last 2 chapters. But
that's the last 2. I feel like you at least got that far.
Yeah.
Me and Nautica are just like chilling at the beginning, like it's fine.
End's got it. I know a lot of folks in the chat also similar in the middle.
That's almost at the beginning, which I've not heard of very often.
Or connecting events. How do you transition? My professor was talking about everyone notices when you make a bad transition, but no one talks about when you make a good transition.
So true.
It was a bit hard. Like, how do you connect something to the next?
Mm-hmm.
And let me know if y'all have any tips for that too.
Yeah. So President Alpine, so the beginning was where they're stuck. Says I can't figure out how to start stuff. So if anybody has any tips for just starting, because I, like staring at that first blank page can be really intimidating.
Well, I think for me, I like writing the first line. I find that like really fun. So like until like when I get a good first line, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. But it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, like something that's gonna go down in history. Like I think like what's the one for Dickens? It was the best of times, the worst of times. Like it doesn't have to be like incredible, but it can be like something fun. I like the way Rick Riordan does it actually, which is kind of what you mentioned, Catherine, where like in the chapter where he finds the sword, and then you can make the first line so this is how I ended up with a sword in my hand, like, or like, and then just like start it. And then even if it's bad, like if you started with like something like that's so absurd, or like even a question, you can like it's a direct starting point. You have something to explain.
That's great. I also say, yeah, don't you can just I mean I think that's a great point that like the beginning doesn't have to be like, you know, the memorable Charles Dickens line opening, because I know for most of my stuff, like I'll write a page and a half of backstory, and then when I go back and as the beginning of my novel, and then when I go back, I'm like, no, I'm cutting all of this. Like I needed to know that in my brain, but the reader doesn't need to know all of this right now, you know, or maybe ever. So
It also like I like throwing people into the action too. It's like in case if you're like someone who's like, I don't know what their backstory is right now, you can just be like, hey, your character could be like, hey, I got stabbed. Here's how that happened. And then you just go from there.
mhm.
That definitely works.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was like, that definitely works. And I kind of wanted to use it to transition to throw y'all into something,
Yeah.
into this action of the last sprint and prompts. So maybe if y'all need some motivation beginning something or reaching your middle, maybe you want to focus on something you might have difficulty with or something you want to work on. This sprint is going to be pick a spot in your story from the previous prompt and write a scene based on that moment. So you have, well, maybe some of y'all have done an outline. Maybe you have a spot that you know is in there, but you just don't know how to start. Try just free writing, whatever comes to your head. And if that doesn't work, just write anything else, whatever gets words on the page.
Yeah. All right. Let's see, another 10 minutes for this one, do you think?
Please.
Yeah. All right. Great. So 10 minutes, picking a spot in your story from the last prompt and writing a scene based on that moment. Let's start now. 5 minutes left, halfway there. And about 2 minutes left. ahead and wrap up with your writing. Again, if you want to drop some stuff that you wrote in the chat or share, what you wrote during, like the number of words you wrote during this write-in or anything, feel free to put those in.
We should, well, while we still have 2 minutes left, hit up the last of the announcements. You know what happens at the end each time. We definitely hope that this was helpful with creating or maybe planning or even just getting somewhere closer to your goal. This is the space. And while we don't do this every week as of right now, we just want to let you know that there's other spaces with the Nano Prep 101 happening next Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Is there also, there's not Writers of Color happening next week, is there?
There's one on October 2nd, I think. So tomorrow.
Ooh, thank you.
At 10 a.m.
Yeah, and you can find the links to those. I'll drop the link to the Nano Prep page again. That's got a calendar on it, and that has the links to all the events that we're doing. The Writers of Color Hangouts are happening on Zoom, not on YouTube. So it's kind of cool because you get to see everybody's faces, not just ours. But.
And it's a good space to be in. Also, reminder, check out our donation campaign if you want to get one of those cool calendars. Also helps us funding to keep doing this work and making sure that we can tell stories across the globe. And then also, is there anything else that I am missing that y'all want to add in for the last?
We now have a TikTok.
Oh yeah.
We now have a TikTok that I run, and Nautica runs Instagram currently. So
Yeah.
follow those if you want more updates and or jokes.
You just wanna hang out.
See what we're doing.
Yeah, we'll be doing a ton of these. We'll be starting to do virtual write-ins weekly, probably towards the end of October and going into November. But we'll have other stuff like webcasts and oh yeah, we've got also on Zoom like a yoga for writers hangout that we're doing in a couple weeks, I think. So check those out. We'd love to see you. We've got lots of stuff going on. So yeah.
Oh, I was also wrong about it being October 2nd. It's actually October 9th at 10 a.m.
Okay, great. Good to know.
Cool.
All right. I think that's everything.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming. And good luck on your projects. Start official projects. Let us know.
Yes.
Oh yeah. If you haven't already announced your project on the NaNoWriMo site, go do that.
Okay. Bye everyone.
All right. Bye. Thanks for joining.